This video is brought to you by the Disc Golf Nerd Patreon support team. Go to patreon.com/discgolfnerd. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my review of the Eric Mccabe Fuzion-X Emac Truth by Dynamic Discs. This is a 2021 Team Series version of the Emac Truth in the Fuzion-X blend, which is a firmer, more overstable version of the Fusion plastic from Dynamic Discs. Not only did Eric Mccabe graciously and kindly hook us up with this beautiful pair of Emacs to test and review, he also sent me a few clips of him throwing the disc as well, so stay tuned to see how it flies for him. According to Emac directly, I hit him up and I was like, hey, any thoughts on this run overall and how it compares to other versions? And he told me emphatically, the most overstable version of the Emac that's ever been released. So if you're an Emac thrower already and you're looking to layer them with something that's more overstable and you want something that has more fade, more torque resistance than your average Emac that you're going to run into, this is the one that you want to look into for sure. And it's been a little while since I've tested an Emac. You know, I tested the original ones as those hit the market when DD first started releasing discs. And I also retested it, re-reviewed it a couple years later when they retooled the mold into the Emac Truth that we have now. And that original Emac that I tested when DD first started releasing discs is now considered the regular Truth, which is a little bit more understable version of the Emac Truth. So these are the most modern, most overstable version of the Emac, and I'm excited to revisit this really phenomenal mold. It's one of those discs that, you know, I could recommend to anyone, but just never quite made it into my bag. But I like this version quite a bit, and there's a good possibility I might hold on to one of these for my own bag. So let's take a closer look at them. First of all, Emac Truth. There's Emac Signature. There it is next to the Emac Truth logo as well. Team Series V2 2021 in the Fuzion-X blend. The Fuzion-X, as I said, is a little bit more firm, stiffer version of the Fusion plastic, but not tremendously so. I mean, it still has some give to it. It still flexes in the hand. It still has a little give under the thumb. It's got some nice grip to it. These will definitely start to get grippier and grippier as you break them in as well. You know, I've been noticing stuff from the factories lately. It definitely helps. I've noticed as well to make sure you wash them with hot soapy water when you first get your discs. That seems to always help improve and increase the grip in my experience, because some of those, you know, oils from the factory and stuff might still be on there. But it's not tremendously stiff or anything. Like, it still has plenty of give. And you can see these have a centralized kind of pop-top dome on them as well. Just a little bit. Like, it doesn't pop a lot, but you can see how it'll pop up and down a little bit there. And if you look at it backed out here, you can see, hopefully, that there's a pretty flat edge here, and then the dome kind of comes up more centrally located, which I really like because it kind of gives you the benefits of the dome in terms of trapping air and allowing these to still float and have good carry. But when you're holding it, you're still holding a kind of a flatter area of the disc. I've never really liked when the shoulder starts to go round up into the dome early on in the grip, like right in my palm there. So this kind of feels like a flatter mid-range, but it still has the benefit of that pop in the middle. And also really nice for forehand. I really like the way this thing feels in my forehand grip. Once again, because of that pop top there, you can see the way my thumb hits the disc. It's on a pretty flat portion, which tends to feel pretty good for forehands. And then on the underside here, you know, it all tucks in quite nice. And with that extra stability and torque resistance from this run, these make really nice forehand approach discs. And I think I might end up bagging one to kind of be in between my Harps and my Pioneer for my forehand approach shots, because it's got a nice stability where it flies straight, but it still does fade. And you can check up on these and throw them at shorter ranges, and they'll behave pretty overstable. And I can really slam into it full power, and it won't turn on me at all. The flight numbers for the Emac Truth is 5502, and this version I would say probably closer to 5503, as, once again, the most overstable run of Emacs, according to the man himself. 180 grams for this pair. And you can see the Emac in general has this squared off lead edge there, and it almost has like a little bit of a false bead. Let's see if I can bring it in a hair and really see that. See that like false bead there? It's not really a beaded mid-range, but it does have that little bump, and you can see how flat that front edge is, kind of squared off there. And once again, that nice centrally located dome, according to Eric, seems to be common throughout the run as well. So, love the feel. No problems with the feel whatsoever. Once again, I like the fact that it feels kind of like a flatter disc in the hand, but it has that pop-top dome to catch some air. And these are overstable, but they're not beefy, right? Like, they don't just dump out. They still fly before that fade kicks in, which I really like. Let's get this guy off to the side again. Let's compare it to another couple of options, as I typically like to do. First, we have my Gold X Compass 5501. This one, I would say, is very similar, where it has a little bit more stability, a little more fade at the end of the flight compared to the average compass you're going to run into. This is an old two-time rookie Team Series that my buddy Anthony hooked me up with years ago, and I bagged this thing for a few years, and it held stability really nice, and it was my go-to kind of short-range, mid-range hyzer disc. It was just really nice for that. Flat to fade, held hyzer really well, and you can see the compass is maybe a little deeper. It's got a more rounded lead edge there. There it is next to the Goldline compass. And we'll also compare it to the Evolution Method, another Lat 264 produced disc. This one's 5503, which is probably what I would consider the flight numbers to be on the Emac in this Fuzion-X blend. And you can see this is a beaded mid-range with that extra added stability to it. And Method, another nice disc. The Neo Plastic, not terribly dissimilar. So let's take a look at some flight footage for this disc. First of all, we're going to see Emac throw it. The first shot over the water is around 330, I believe. I think it's a little bit downhill. And you can see it's just laser beam straight out across for him. And then the next shot you're going to see is about, I think he said it's about 375, which is farther than I can throw a driver. So you're going to see how far this thing can fly and still has that nice stability to it, where it just holds laser straight in the middle of the flight, where it kind of stands up a little bit, and then have that fade at the end of the flight. So it's a really consistent disc. For me, you're going to see me throw it on a variety of different types of shots. I tried to get as much coverage as I could in the couple field sessions that I got out of this disc. Really liked it for forehands, as we looked at earlier on those shorter forehand shots, because it's straight flying, but it still has that fade, and it still handles the torque quite well. So I could flex it on a forehand, and I could pop it up straight to fade on a forehand as well, and it works out super well. I also tested it on some little chip shots towards that goal, soccer goal that you'll see, and I tried to flex it and all that stuff, and it handled it all really well. You can check up on it and throw it relatively short for those little chip shots on approach. Works great forehand and backhand for that, and you can power into it as well. And again, you're seeing Emac throw it farther than I throw my Havocs, so you know it can handle speed and power. For my arm speed, it's quite overstable, but once again, it's not beefy. It's not like a Justice or something that just dumps out and drops. Like, it still flies, it still has that glide to it with the extra torque resistance and a little bit more fade at the end of the flight than you typically find with a Fuzion or a standard Lucid Emac Truth. The Emac Truth in general is one of those discs that never quite broke into my bag, but I'd recommend it to anyone. It's a phenomenal flyer, and one of the best attributes of it is that it goes really far for a mid-range. And even when you kick up that stability, again, it's not beefy where it's falling off the line. It still holds a nice line. It still flies for me, but it does have that extra stability to it. So if you layer Emacs and you're looking for an overstable run to add to the bag, this is the one you want to check. You know, again, I hit up Emac and asked him, you know, anything overall that stands out about this mold, or this run rather, compared to the other runs of the Emac, and he told me without hesitation the most overstable run of Emacs ever. So if that's what you're looking for, it's a no-brainer that you should check these out. If you are looking for a mid-range that flies far in general, like something that can kind of bridge the gap between a slower mid-range with less glide and some of your fairway drivers, it's a far-flying mid-range that really gets out there almost as far as a slower driver, if not farther, depending on the conditions. So, phenomenal disc. Happy to have it represented here in the playlist once again in this new plastic type, and it could be something I end up bagging. So, that is my review on the Emac Truth. Thank you once again to Eric Mccabe for hooking me up with this beautiful pair of discs to test and review. I told Eric I was going to dye one of these and send it back to him, I'll probably still do that, even though now that I have them, I almost kind of want to put them in the collection, because I do really like these. But I'm a man of my word, so one of these will probably get dyed up and sent out to Eric, and the other one might end up in my bag, once again, to kind of bridge the gap between my Overstable fairways and my harps. So, thank you very much to everybody for your continued support. Thank you to Disc Golf Nerd Patreon support team. Shout out to all you guys. I appreciate the support very, very much. We added a new member to the team as well, so check out the updated team sheet. And yeah, I love you all. I'll talk to you very soon. Cheers.